Hi everyone, welcome once again to the 24-bit podcast, and today we are going to speak about something we are all familiar with, that is Samsung's newest foldable smartphones. Newest, well, we are taping this episode in November, but we've been using these devices since their launch. That was in September, yes? Yeah, since September, so we've had them through September, October, and all of that, and a good number of people in our market have them. And as usual, to help me go through what those devices entail and everything you're getting from Samsung are the usual suspects.
Dickson Otieno from techish.com.
And Kanali from Trends.
Now, first things first, we've discussed foldables before on this podcast, so I don't think they need much of an introduction. We've covered quite a lot of ground on foldables, but today we are going to be very specific about the kind of foldables we are talking about. There are two foldable smartphones that Samsung released. There's the devices in our market that Samsung would want you to buy. Of course, we are close at the end of the year and we're looking at a new member of the Galaxy S, but that's new year stuff. For right now, if you are to go to a Samsung brand store, the one device they'd want you to get is either a Galaxy Z Fold 4 or a Galaxy Z Flip 4. Obviously, they don't come cheap, but hey, that's why we are here to discuss. So first things first, I'd want to know from you two gentlemen what your experience using the Samsung foldables has been. I want to believe some of you have used, one of you has used both, another has used only one. So I'd want to know what your experience is. Let's start with the Flip. What's the experience using the Galaxy Z Flip 4?
I think since I better explain that we are taping this for the second time. The first time we had discussed. So if you hear us saying when we first discussed, it means you didn't hear the first discussion, but we are calling back to a certain discussion we already had. So like I'd already said, for me, the Flip 4 felt like a big improvement only on battery life. Everything else was similar to the Flip 3. Apart from the hinge was tougher and steadier, but the improvement for me was the Flip 4 was better in terms of battery life. Yeah.
Interesting. Battery life. Nick, you got to use the Flip 4?
No, I haven't used the Flip.
But you used the Flip 3?
No, actually I've been using the folds all through.
And Dickson, you're the one who's been using Flips.
Yeah.
So how does it compare? How does the 4 compare to the 3?
Just better battery life and a stronger hinge. Yeah. The Flip 3 had a very loose hinge, so you could always hang up your call very easily and do all that by flipping. But the Flip 4 felt like the hinge was very tough. Yeah.
Tough enough to do flex mode. How's the flex mode experience on the two devices compared?
Well, flex mode is better on the Flip 4 thanks to the harder hinge. Is it tougher or harder or sturdier hinge? It can stay at very many different angles open compared to the Flip 3, which will only stay open at 90 or at full. Yeah.
Nick, what's your experience using? I understand you never used the Flip, but you've been on the beach of the Fold. So how's your experience using the Galaxy Z Fold 4?
I think just as Dickson said, what we are seeing with the Flip, there's actually not so big improvements, on the Fold 4 compared to what we saw on the Fold 3. Actually, in fact, the biggest thing upgrade I've seen, we are getting a more prolonged battery life. Actually, one of the biggest thing I noticed with the Fold 4, and I'm sure I've seen something that Dickson will agree with me, having used the Fold. Even you actually used the Fold 4.
Yes.
Actually, the biggest improvement we saw was the battery life, and of course a lot of other refinements. The hinge actually is a little bit stronger. Actually, Samsung says the Fold 4 can actually can endure 200,000 folds. Yeah.
I'm not quite sure. I've just seen independent YouTuber tests that have had the device taken through its paces. Somebody did 200,000 shillings for one of those not shillings, 200,000 folds for one of those folds. I think the Fold 2 or something. And then I've seen another who did 300,000 shillings, 300,000 folds before the sorry, my mind is just set of mine right now. 300,000 folds before the device gave in. So, and the very first generation Fold is the one that Samsung said it can go all the way to 300,000, right?
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever had a rating for the second gen, the third gen, and now we are on the fourth generation. But it should be somewhere there. I shared my experience on the review I did for the Fold 4, and at no given time did I feel like the device is vulnerable or like it needs some TLC because of how fragile it is. Is it fragile? Yes, it does look fragile, but when you're using it, you don't feel that bit. Mine used to stay in my pockets all the time, and it was okay, really. I think at this point, much as I never quite extensively used previous generations of folds, I think at this point we are where you can comfortably take your fold anywhere with you. Like a fold is a device you can live with, and you are not thinking about it every minute of the day.
It's being a very fragile thing you need to take care of. Yeah.
You just use it like your normal phone. The only difference is it's really not a normal phone, because 1 minute it's a small compact device, quite slender and slim. I wish that if it was closed when you're on the cover screen was just the size of a normal phone, because it's actually slimmer and slimmer and taller, which disorients your handling of a phone. Because when I'd moved from the Fold 4 back then I was using the Reno 7 4G. The Reno 7 4G will feel like such a huge phone. Yeah. But then the other bit is when now you go past the cover screen and you open it up, you get this big canvas, which is nice for
like a mini tablet.
Yeah, for content consumption.
Yeah.
If you are into Netflixes, there's your thing. If you are into YouTube videos like I am, you get, and it becomes addictive because that's my preferred way of reading long form articles. The text is very crisp, and like the large display just does it and removes the need of ever getting a tablet. And then the videos look nice. It's a small matter of the crease, but I never found it to be really. Yeah. So my experience was good, really, on the Fold. So good, I wished I had one to keep. But the reason I don't have one to keep is because I can't afford it.
And actually, if you notice, actually, the Fold 4 compared to the Fold 3, I feel like, the Fold 4 is actually more lighter.
Is it?
Yeah, it's actually more lighter and a little bit thinner.
I find that one thick.
But
I know some of you, that's how you like them, but I find that phone quite thick. It's like two phones stacked into one. My normal day-to-day phone before the Fold 4 arrived, if you were to place another on top of it, that's how you get the Fold 4, and then you slice it kidogo so that it keeps its tender profile. Yeah, but that phone is actually quite thick. Na ukiweka kwa mfuko inajaza mfuko.
It's very bulky wakati umeingiza kwa mfuko.
Yeah, and then it doesn't close fully, entirely. There's some gap. There's somebody else who's doing foldables locally, and that phone does close all the way. I wish the Fold was like that, but then on the other hand, I understand why the Fold is like that, because in my case, the entire time I never needed to worry about dust. It used to be a while in the first generation, I think the second generation, but Samsung has had all 4 generations to iterate, improve on the product, and right now I think things are looking very, very good.
I've used both the Flip and the Fold. You remember the first time we had this discussion, I could only talk about the Flip, and you kept asking, so which one do you prefer between the Flip and the Fold? And all through, since the introduction of foldables, whenever Samsung asks to send review units, I've always picked the Flip, because I've always believed the Flip to be the better implementation of folding devices, or rather the more approachable, rather more affordable and nicer looking version of foldables. But this time around, I got to interact with the Fold 4, and you remember the very first tweet I did on the Fold 4 was that you don't think of it as a good implementation of foldables or a necessary thing until you get your hands on one, and then your whole experience changes. Because before touching the Fold 4, I used to think, okay, so there's an extra display, I have a tablet, I don't need all that. But then actually having it in your pocket and using it while outdoors, while moving around, and having it as compact and as portable as it is compared to a huge tablet, makes you change your mind on how foldables actually are. So the Fold 4 is really, really, really good to use on a daily basis, and it even has better battery life than the Flip 4. The Flip 4, yes, it's better battery life than the Flip 3, but you're constantly thinking of battery with the Flip 4. On the Fold 4, I don't know about you guys, but my experience was that I could get out of the house and do everything and still have enough battery by evening.
Yeah, true.
And on top of that, you're getting this good experience where you can multitask, you can do your stuff both on the cover display and on the bigger display. And it's presented in it's sort of a tablet form factor where the UI goes hand in hand with the movable features of the display, and makes you really enjoy your experience with the device. So this time round, I think I can shift from saying the flip is better to saying the fold is better. Yeah,
I think that there's so many things like about the Fold 4 that I agree. But I think given a choice to choose between the two, of course, having used of the Fold 4 for close to 2 months now, I actually still pick the Fold, the 3. I mean the flip. I mean, yeah, because of the size. Yeah, I love my phones. I love my phones a little bit smaller. Yeah. So, and I actually find, of course, there's so many things to enjoy. Like, of course, the huge displays, they're quite really nice for, especially for people who actually like multitasking and all that. But I think based on the size, I'll pick the flip, over the Fold anytime.
Really? Why? Like, those are the reasons.
I love them small. I love my small. But actually the size.
It's a valid choice. The only reason, and also it's a choice that I think a good number of Kenyans will agree with you, and a lot of people around the world agree with you. 70% of the foldables Samsung sold in the year to August were the flips, right?
Yeah.
So,
the flip has very good advertisement. For example,
because we've been there before. In the late 90s, early 2000s,
we had flip phones. And the advertising market, or rather the marketing the flip is getting from popular bands like K-pop bands and all that. Even when I made a TikTok about the flip, the first comment was, "Oh, now you feel like a BTS fan." Like, I don't know who BTS is, but I googled BTS and they're a K-pop fan, and they're this face of the flip phone in South Korea. So you see that people are already associating the look of the phone to a certain pop band or to a certain lifestyle, and that is increasing the sales of the device. So
there's that. I have to agree, the flip has a certain kind of appeal, so it appeals to a certain audience. I think the primary reason it's a bestseller around the world is because it's cheaper. That thing is true. At least in Kenya, it's around 120,000 shillings cheaper than the Fold 4. So 120,000 shillings is a lot of money. So you're looking at if you have 120, you can either you can get one flip and go get a mid-level current series iPhone, right? Or a normal clamshell Samsung phone in the S series, or you could just do a bargain. Like Safaricom had a sale, you would pay 127,000 shillings and transact 50,000 Boka points, and you get the flip. So those kinds of deals will get you actually two flips. So the pricing works for the flip. We've discussed foldables before on this podcast, and one of our conclusions was for foldables to really take off, they need to meet the consumer somewhere halfway. So the prices will have to go down somehow, and that's when we'll start to see them a lot. We're talking about Samsung foldables right now because Samsung has made a deliberate decision to push foldables. Like the Z Flip 4 and the Z Fold 4 exist because they're not series. It's no longer there. And if you look at it, the Z Fold 4 actually does support the S Pen. Samsung want to give it to you out of the box. If you need it, it can work. But Samsung has made a deliberate decision that the one phone they're going to commit all the energy on is on the Galaxy Z series, and it's going to be their foldables. Everyone else is yet to get there. But if they were to get there and the prices came down, that's when we'd see foldables everywhere. So in this case, the flip is popular because the pricing allows the manufacturer to meet the customers somewhere along the line, which is different compared to how prohibitively expensive the Z Fold 4 is. I think the Z Fold 4 has peaked at a price of 270,000 shillings locally, and the flip 153,000 shillings locally without any discounts and everything. Of course, Samsung has deals. They've partnered with Badil, would give you Samsung would pay 25,000 shillings for you
to the value
of your
Badil gives you
for an old device that you're trading in.
Yes,
and then 20,000 shillings for the Flip 4.
Yes.
Other than those deals, you're looking at 270k upfront, 153k
upfront. And actually, the price of Fold can actually get you like two S22 Ultras, right? And that's
Wow.
and actually, if you remember, during the Twitter space we held, I think pricing was a very important thing. It really came out like
Very many people
very
raised,
For me, how I look at it is this way. Even though my usage of the Fold meant that I had very less usage of my iPad, is to 70k. I'm buying one of these newer iPads and picking up
another iPhone.
not an iPhone, picking up another nice Droid.
Android.
For that money. That's how price it is. But when you're saying that is from our own very geeky point of view. We are losing the point.
Yeah.
There are two reasons, at least in my opinion, why the Fold exists, and it's expensive. Number one, obviously the technology doesn't come cheap. That piece of bendable quote unquote glass, because it's plastics, it's some piece of plastic. That entire technology and miniaturization of everything there is actually expensive, and we have an under display camera. That under display camera, as far as I'm concerned, isn't really the best. It's a 4 megapixel thing.
10. I don't know.
Should be somewhere low there. And it's very grainy, and it's really just not it's not.
But remember,
not
even
the best of things.
Even if it looks bad, the thing that really amazes me is how you don't know it's there.
Yeah, how it was implemented actually. It's actually quite interesting.
So you don't know the camera is there until you need it, and that the way it has been hidden under the display is really good. And I hope Samsung can give some of the technology they're using to Apple for their weird notch.
But Apple is doing fine with the dynamic island. I really think I like the dynamic island.
Okay.
It's a 4 megapixel thing. It's actually grainy. If you have to look at
the quality is bad.
If you're doing,
it's only there for
videos and all. But the saving grace is there's a whole 10 megapixel camera on the
front,
which is so good. Yeah, so those are the things that drive up the price of the Fold. That technology doesn't come cheap. That's number one. Number two is the kind of people it's targeted. Remember, this is Samsung. It's not really Samsung's flagship device, but it's the flagship foldable. But hakuna foldable. So that point is moot. And the Galaxy S exists. But it's the one device they are pitching to anyone as the most prestigious, the most premium in their lineup. And so if you're a moneyed person, you walk into a Samsung experience store,
and you want to spend,
one, the price tag is up there to your level, and two, it's stylish enough. Screen attention. The one I had for review, any meeting I went to, everyone knew exactly what that was, and it was the center of attention.
You've seen the president with one,
and everyone commented that's one. And the loud lawyers on Twitter make a point of reminding you that they're using one. So it makes the statement.
It's a statement.
Device. So much as my types will say I can get an iPad and something else, or I can buy 2 flips and all those stories. When you look at it from the people it's targeted at, it's supposed to be the kind of statement that it is. And two, the technology doesn't come cheap as it does now. Yes, Kanali and company are catered to. Now, so according to you, Nick, you would get
prefer the flip.
You prefer the flip. Dickson prefers the Fold. Let me ask.
I used to prefer the flip. You remember?
Yeah.
But after using the Fold, I think it's the best implementation of foldables. That's all I can.
From your usage of the 2 foldables, both of you, value for money?
Value for money becomes a very gray, what do you call it? Cloudy or
becomes opaque.
Yeah, it becomes an opaque topic. Hot air.
But that's the amount of money you actually pay for such a nice piece of tech. So there's value for money because of just
honestly, the price of the Fold is the price of a very good OLED TV from LG.
I thought you'd say it's a down payment for it, but
it's also the down payment for a car. So when you look at it in that way, you start asking yourself, what gives you more value for money over time? When you start looking at it that way, but then when you look at it as this way, it's a foldable device. It's the best foldable device currently in a market where only 3 companies or 4 companies are making foldables. Then you look at it, the fact that the technology inside is very, very new and very, very it's tasking on the company to come up with ways of having the battery bended or separated into two, having movable parts inside a display that's compact, having a display that's plastic but coated with glass and all that. So it starts making sense to you as to why the cost is that high. So you can justify the cost being that it's an exclusive product, but if you compare it to existing products, say the way I've compared it to a TV and all that, it starts looking like a very expensive thing. Yeah. But the cost justifies itself, especially for me who did not pay anything to use it when you actually get to use it. Yeah. It becomes a very nice device to hold and to touch. And these small features, for example, the cover display becoming the viewfinder when you're taking a photo of someone, the fact that you can use it in different modes, folded, open, and all that, make you really love the software experience in general, and also appreciate how the hardware was developed. Yeah.
Fantastic. I just know I want it. If actually I had the money, I'd just buy it. After Samsung, I buy a t-shirt 3,000 shillings, I'll buy it because I've used the device, and you know how nice it is to have your tablet with you when you don't have your tablet with you. Yeah. Like you're in the middle of nowhere and you need an extra big display.
And your phone just...
Yes, it's just there. That thing is so fantastic. Then the other bit is there's something we haven't talked about. Actually, the camera is so good.
The back camera
is so good.
Yeah.
Like
I've actually used the back camera on some of my YouTube videos. I don't know if people can notice the shots that are from the main camera and from the false camera. People can't tell, I think. But in the description box, if you go, you'll find a gadgets used. You'll find the Galaxy Fold 4 as one of the cameras in some of my videos.
Nice. Because I loved it. So you're carrying one device that does almost everything.
Yeah.
And that's
especially as a content creator. Yeah.
And that's not something you normally can say about pretty much lots of devices that you carry around. Most times you'd find yourself carrying multiple devices
for different.
Yeah. Now, the one thing that we haven't talked about, we talked about in our last podcast, and I don't know by the time you get to hear this if that will have gone up or this will come fast, but we have discussed 5G. What's the 5G situation on the Fold?
As far as the other week when Safaricom went commercial with 5G, I still couldn't actually, connect the Fold 4 to a 5G network. Yeah. And I think
it needs it's one of those devices that Safaricom said will need an update.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. So I think just once Safaricom rolls that, you should be able to, not with Safaricom, that's up to the manufacturer, the smartphone manufacturer, right?
So Samsung sends out the update.
Because actually, I've seen even people complaining online about, Safaricom 5G, I connect kwa simu yangu. It's not Safaricom, actually your mobile, your iPhone, but it's all iPhone, that's why they got an update. It's up to Samsung.
Actually, Apple will be sending the update in December.
Yeah.
Currently, if you're beta testing, is when you can access it. Yeah.
So the same thing for Samsung actually, and until Samsung rolls out an update, you still can't be able to actually access 5G using the Fold 4. Yeah.
Okay. Now, a question. If you're listening to this and you are not aware, we did a space on foldables and these Samsung devices and others.
Quite interesting,
which was quite interesting. And one question I asked there that I'm going to ask here is, what do you think the future of foldables is like? Because the one thing that you look at immediately, you see the Z Fold 4 and you feel how nice and futuristic. It almost blows your mind that we are using this in 2022. Is this going to be like the future? If you're buying one today, you are almost like an early adopter, probably the first in a long line of other people that will embrace this. So the question to you people is this what the future looks like?
I think it does. Remember, the future of, let me say as a startup, how startup founders say, the future is bright. But I think this based on, for example, like a couple of months ago, IDC released a report and they're talking about how, the demand for foldables is actually increasing with, 7.1 million units shipped last year. That was in 2021. Yeah. Up on the 1.9 million units that are actually shipped in 2020. So, and that's why they're predicting the foldable phone market will reach 27.6 million units with a value of $29 billion by 2025. And just as you say, the future, it's going to actually grow bigger unless we see, some of these companies. I remember someone saying in the space, they want to see companies like Techno releasing a phone, just making the pricing, a little bit fair to, for end consumers. But I think the future is actually quite interesting, and we are here for it.
I think if you look at reviews of foldables from your reviews and from our personal use and other reviewers, everyone using the phone is positive about the experience with the phone. I did not like the Fold before using it. Then I got to use it and I liked it. So that means someone who has never used the Fold will probably like it. Yeah. The problem currently remains entry prices and a barrier to entry. So most of the people that this phone could be good to cannot afford it right now. I don't think I know anyone who is willing to spend more than 200k on a phone right now, unless they're an Apple fanboy maybe, or unless they're getting the biggest S22 Ultra or anything. Yeah. So if the barrier to entry remains price, very many people still cannot buy the phone. But everyone who gets to use the phone says they like the phone. So what happens when price come down, thanks to competition, thanks to other market companies coming in and offering cheaper foldables? It means more people will be liking the experience if software is good, and more people will be embracing the foldable device segment. So that means that there's still a chance for these phones to become mainstream in the future.
But I think you spoke about the software. I mean, the software on the Fold and the Flip, actually, it's actually very nice. Really a clean UI and everything. And by the time someone actually decides to spend $270 or even $150 on a phone, it means they have read all the reviews, they have read all the nice things about. They have
not always, but most of the people,
Not true of most people would spend that kind of money. A lot of people just spend that kind of money because they have that kind of money. And also brand reputation. If you are a user of Samsung Galaxy S devices, when you see them having a foldable, you've had a very good experience on the Galaxy S, and you can afford the foldable, you'll actually pick it on the basis of Samsung's strong reputation, which is something to credit them on, because it's also what's helped them. If anyone else just started from scratch and their first device is a foldable, they'd fold. The first foldable in the market was Royal. Where did those guys go? They are not dominating the market.
Folded.
And actually,
exactly.
We've actually previously done a very interesting podcast around brand attachment, right?
Yes.
It was some years back. Maybe actually, if you're listening to this podcast, actually go and look for that podcast. Actually, basically talking about how some of us are attached to brands. They say someone will be attached to a Samsung, and the only brand they can buy is a Samsung.
I wanted to include in this discussion that I've used the Fold with a cover. So Samsung sent over what are they called? Covers. The things you attach to make the So the cover is like in 2 bits. You attach one to the front screen and one to the back of the device. You can use the phone with the cover open or closed. There's a kickstand included in the cover. So once you open it, you can slot up the stand so that it stands on its own. Okay. And then there's also an S Pen. Samsung sent over the S Pen 2 for the Fold. So the S Pen comes in this case, or cover that is attached to the phone, so you carry your S Pen around as part of the cover.
How responsive is the S Pen, by the way?
The S Pen is really good, they did not send the S Pen Pro, they sent the normal S Pen. There's a Pro and there's a normal S Pen. So using the S Pen is just as you will use a normal stylus, or as you will use the S Pen on the Note. The only difference here is that the S Pen is big, so it feels like a pen. Actually, it's not the tiny things that came with the Note.
And there's nowhere to put it.
There's nowhere to put it, but the cover that comes with it attaches to your phone. So it's something you always carry around. The problem is it becomes very bulky. I'll show you guys. The other thing is that the S Pen is constantly connected, and there's no charging, or what is it called? There's no way to charge it. It's just constantly working. Yes.
There's a question someone was asking here. So if the foldable market is growing, what's the attraction? So the major selling point of a foldable phone is the convenience of a smaller phone without having to compromise the screen size. In some cases, the full screen size is actually even larger than the traditional device. But can the benefits outweigh the higher price point?
At this point, that's a hard question to answer because I really love the 7.6 inch display that the Fold 4 opens into, and I throw anything pretty much for Samsung to give me that phone because I loved it that much. But if you are not in my kind of bubble, is that enough to justify you stretching to get that device? I really don't think so. Like at this point, this is how I think of the Galaxy Z series. It's a luxury.
Yes.
So if you are not at a point where you can afford a luxury phone, just
don't bother.
But if you are at a point where a luxury phone is a no-brainer, it's a bloody good phone.
And if you're someone who's willing to suffer a little to get to experience new tech, I think you'll enjoy it.
Because I mean, Samsung has the S series, just really nice phones. We have the S23 Ultra coming up. When is it, in January?
In a few months,
So I mean, but if you can afford
and it will be more of everything that the Z Fold 4 is,
just without the foldable features.
Without the foldable aspect, it will still support the S Pen. It will have one of its new processors. The Z Fold 4 and the Flip 4 we're using here ran the Exynos variants.
Yes.
It's not the Qualcomm one.
Yes.
So chances are,
I think the Flip was using the Qualcomm processor.
Because even when you see the cameras we're having on the Fold 4, the same cameras we have on the S22 Ultra.
Yes.
That's one of the biggest upgrades between the third generation and the fourth generation.
Which
one of the complaints that rocked the third generation was there were inferior
cameras. And that's still the case with the Flip 4. Because it's still running inferior cameras. Immediately you open it and compare it with the Fold 4, you notice the cameras are not the same.
So you can actually see clearly where the 100 and
where that's
different.
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. I think we'll leave it there and we'll extend this discussion to our social media pages. You can follow Dickson, you can follow Techish, you can follow Nixon, you can follow TechTrends. You can follow myself and the usual not so much chatter on Kenya on Twitter. But from there, you can share your feedback with us, what you think about this podcast episode. Most importantly, what you think about foldable smartphones in the world, Kenya. Specifically Samsung's two new foldables, the Fold 4 and the Z Flip 4. Will you get one? Does the pricing work for you? What are your thoughts about foldables? All those things. We discussed quite a number of these issues in our Twitter space, but if you missed it, you can still
the link for the Twitter space. You can listen to it because this podcast will be uploaded with another episode of the Twitter space podcast.
I actually have the episode that the space pinned on my Twitter page, so you can actually go check.
You can also go to Kanali's page at Nick Kanali to check the space.
Yeah, so we'd like to hear from you on all those subjects. Until the next episode, thank you for listening in. I've been your host, Chenze Emmanuel.
Dickson Otieno.
And Nick Kanali.
See you.
See you.